As a hobby, I've been studying the far right in the United States for like basically 20 years. I've never done anything with my studies before. Finally taking the time to actually do something, commit to some sort of record. What I've learned and these sort of insights, I guess, I've made. I talk about it in sort of elevated terms, but it is nothing more than just an interest of mine studying the far right. And over that time, a very consistent feature of the American right, reactionaries, conservatives, has been making allusions to a new 1776, a new American Revolution, a new Civil War. Basically, whenever the government, usually under a Democratic administration, whenever the government does something they don't like, has a policy they don't like, hey, booty, quiet. They'll say things like, this is why we have the Second Amendment. This is exactly what the Second Amendment for, Tree of Liberty, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people take that seriously, as well they should, because a lot of the right is very unhinged. They have these hero fantasies of themselves being the good guy with the gun who's going to take out the bad criminals, and they're going to save the country. They're going to protect their property. They're going to protect their family. A lot of conservatives are itching to kill someone, and they will take any excuse to kill someone they can get. But despite how serious it all is, over the years of them saying these things and me observing this rhetoric, I've kind of come to the conclusion, or I had previously come to the conclusion, that they're not going to do shit. There may be pockets of right-wing militia groups who will take on sabotage actions or kill people or assassinate people more than they have been doing. That always happens, but not in numbers enough to actually really be an existential threat to the structure of the government. Most right-wingers are full of shit when it comes to this tough guy rhetoric. They feel like they mean it. They have in their head this fantasy that they are this tough guy who's going to save the day. But the problem is they're too fucking comfortable. They have too much to lose. They're addicted to Facebook and TikTok. They're addicted to streaming. They're not going to go live in some bunker in the woods and miss the latest Tim Allen TV show. They have these LARPing fantasies where they can go on a survivalist retreat for a week and they can go camping and hunting, and they feel like they're real salt of the earth, down in the dirt, rough and tumble frontiersmen. But they're just not. A lot of these people are suburbanites. And a lot of these people who you might think because of how remotely they live, that they're not so, domesticated or whatever. But they're just suburbanites who moved further out of the urban center. They're not salt of the earth people. They're not people of the soil. They're not frontiersmen. They're not rugged individualists. They're suburbanites. They're exurbanites. I don't even know if exurbanites, I know exurbs, but exurbanites or whatever. They're that kind of people who are just very comfortable, and they feel a little discomfort about whatever government policy or cultural change, and they get on Facebook to talk about how they're going to do some new American Revolution, and they're not, because they have to get off Facebook. If they do that, do they really think that they're going to be able to use Facebook in their compound and not be tracked down by the government? But that realization I came to, it's all moot anyway, because currently, make no mistake about this, currently, the American government has declared war on the states. The American government has invaded cities. We don't need to wait for Oh, if the government comes, I'm going to 1776 and I get my gun. That's happening now. And these fucking people aren't doing shit. One, because they agree with what's happening, because they are fascists. That's all that is. Authoritarianism is the thing that animates and bridges all of the different disparate conservative movements and conservative thought. It's authoritarianism. So they like the idea of Gestapo snatching people up off the streets and disappearing them. They like seeing troops in the streets of cities that they have been told to not like. They like this fascist rhetoric and action. They agree with it. So of course they're not going to take up arms against it because they like it. So that's one thing. They're not going to take up arms because they like it. But they're also going to take up arms because they were never going to take up arms. What would happen, I'll tell you what would happen. If there was a Democratic administration that was doing the same thing, they would just hold up in their homes. They would just bunker down in their suburban, suburban, exurban compounds that they've created. Because that's the other thing too, is you have to really listen to conservative rhetoric. What they talk about is not free, like broader freedom. It's individual freedom. It's freedom for my property and my family. I have my property. Don't come on my property. I'll shoot you if you come on my property. Anything that's happening in the outside world, they don't care about because they're insular people. Conservatism and right-wing thought in general has a very narrow circle of interest. It has a very narrow idea of like my family, myself, my family, my property, my community in general. But these people are so isolated from people that they don't care about. They have no community to care about. Their community may be the people they go to church, and that's part of their narrow sphere of interest. You get outside of their town, no. You get outside of their county, no. You get outside of their state, hell no. You get outside of their religion, outside of their race. They just don't care about all of that. So if there were troops on the streets of, I don't even know, Tyler, Texas, they're not going to care because those kind of people are living away from city centers. They're living in the suburbs. They live in the exurbs. They live in the country. And as long as troops aren't at their door, they don't care because their sphere of interest almost stops outside of their door because they hate people. They're atomized. They are tribalistic, and their tribe can be pretty fucking small. So no one should really be surprised that the new American Revolution people, the new American Civil War people, it's no surprise that they aren't going to do shit, that they're not doing shit currently, and that they're not going to do shit, and that they would never do shit. At most, you would have a couple of independently operated militias in the country places of like Washington and Michigan and other types of places like that. And then you would have people holed up in their little enclaves that they've set up. The American right has taken on this enclave mentality that basically permeates their entire existence. That's why they're so angry at everything, because they hate everything that is outside of their little protected enclave. And that extends to their idea of pushing back against the government. I'm just gonna hunker down in my enclave and wait for the troops to come to my door, and then I will protect my property. That's all it's ever been. All this gun enthusiasm talk, we need the Second Amendment, we need guns to protect ourselves. That's all it's ever been about. Listen to how right-wingers talk. Listen to how conservatives talk. When they talk about guns, they talk about property. When you listen to them speak, they're always talking about protecting property. What they're talking about is protecting their narrow sphere of interest. That doesn't include outsiders, whether that be racial outsiders, religious outsiders, political outsiders. even people outside of their city, county, state, or even the boundaries of their personal property. That's all it's ever been about.